Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have not done a sit down craft video on this channel in a long time because I just moved and it's been a little bit crazy, but as you can see, we have a very beautiful tree up. I'm wearing my festive Christmas sweater, so we are ready to do some Christmas DIYs, and I have some fun things in mind for this video. The first one is going to be an oversized stuffed bow. So bows are really big. The whole coquette trend is really big this year, and it definitely went over into Christmas, and I feel like you can always have more bows in your home. So I'm going to show you how to make the famous fluffy bow. It's very, very simple. It's just a bunch of rectangles, and also if you don't have a sewing machine, you can very easily just use a hot glue gun or even like the hem tape or something like that with your iron. I'm gonna use my sewing machine just because I have it, but again, remember, you can do it without sewing. So a goal that I had while planning out these DIYs was that I didn't want to use any brand new materials. I wanted to use everything that I already had, because if you've seen my reorganizing my craft supplies videos, I have a lot of stuff. So for the larger size bow, which you can see me making here, I cut out a rectangle. It's almost a square, but it's a rectangle. It's 18 inches long, 15 inches wide. And then for the tails, I cut two 20-inch by 10-inch rectangles. And then if you want your bow to be very fluffy, you're also going to need quilt batting, or you can even use like an old thrifted blanket. So I cut out exactly the same cuts, a 15 by 18 rectangle and two 10 by 20 rectangles for the tails. You're also going to cut out an additional rectangle that is 12.5 by 3.5 and also some quilt batting to go with it. Once you have everything cut and put together, we're now going to fold everything hot dog style. We're taking it back to the elementary instructions. You want to fold the two short sides together. Anytime I sew something a little bit on the thicker side, I do tend to do a bigger seam allowance just so that I can make sure that I am catching all of the layers. Sometimes the thicker materials do tend to slip around just a little bit more than the thin ones, just a lot more to handle. I'm going to cut the extra seam allowance off, and then I'm going to flip these inside out. But actually, before I do that, I'm going to sew my angled ends. I'm going to sew from like up here down to the corner so that I have a angled end of my ribbon. I'm gonna cut that excess and then also the seam allowance. I think I'm also going to, in order to close the top part of the bow, sew along right here, and then when I flip it, I'm going to do a little tuck in and top stitch. That's what the word is. I still don't feel like it's fluffy enough, so I have a lot of fluff, like pillow fluff and stuff, so I think I'm gonna put that in here as well. Okay, I think that this is a bit more of the vibe that I was going for. I also like don't love the corners being so sharp, so I might just like kind of tuck them in. I don't know. I guess if you're still sewing this, you can round out your corners if you like that. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. It literally looks like a miniature body pillow, like a body pillow for a doll, but I think it's really cute. Okay, I didn't put stuffing in like the very center because I'm going to be putting like a little strip. So the center point, with it being completely sewn, 8.5. Should we also have a fluffy center thing? I kind of feel like we should. Let me look at my inspo pics. My inspo pic doesn't have a fluffy one, and it's just easier to not add on a whole other piece, so we're not going to. I have this little strip, which I guess I'll just like cut a piece of. So I'm not gonna sew this piece, but I am folding it kind of like you would bias tape. So in 1/3, and then it should hold. Like it's not, I don't know. There's no reason it would come undone, really. And here's what it looks like. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Now we just need to add on the tails. Okay, what do we think? One side, it almost looks kind of small for the size of this, which I'm surprised by. Thought I was making it like extra long, but I guess not. I think I might just get like a rubber band and tie them together at the top here. And then now to figure out how to attach it to our bow. I think I know how I can attach it. I'm gonna get another rubber band and I'm gonna wrap it around the center, and then I'm just gonna loop this up underneath that. Okay, so up close, this is what it looks like. I have the rubber band around there, and then this back two pieces rubber banded together. And what I'm going to do now is take my strip and I'm going to just tie it all together to cover up those rubber bands. And to be honest, the more that I'm looking at this, I feel like the strip needs to have the batting because it's kind of getting lost in there. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Let me let you in on a little secret. It's been a couple weeks since I filmed this video. And since then, I've realized specifically with this bow that we need to go bigger. We need to do something grander. I went to Joann and I got many yards of this perfect Christmas bow red fabric. In fact, I got enough to make a 20-foot bow. So the garland that is currently in this archway is a 20-foot long garland. So I want to make a bow that is just as long. And maybe if I have extra, I can make other small bows for the two other arches in my living room. But we're just gonna start with this one. And you've already seen me make a bow. So I'm basically going to just scale everything up and then make the tails like 10 feet long. It's gonna be awesome. For this project, I used 3 yards of fabric. I needed 2 10-foot tail sections, and what I found is the easiest way to cut long strips of fabric straighter is to fold it. And now that meant that I was cutting like 10 layers of fabric or something. Like this rotary cutter is done after this. I need to get it sharpened or get a new blade. For the actual bow part of it, it is 30 by 15 inches. And I have 2 pieces of fabric that are 30 by 15 and I sewed them together and then I added on quilt batting. For this one, I also pre-rounded the corners as I was sewing with a cup, cut off the excess, flipped it inside out, and I did not add any polyfill to this one just because it was already pretty fluffy. And then I started sewing the very, very long 10-foot strips of fabric. I also had this extra piece of fabric that I just bunched up and put in the center, and I think it looks really cute. It's kind of like crinkly. Basically, I did the exact same assembly process as the first bow, and look how big it is. Can't even fathom like how big this bow is. Anyway, I wrapped the rubber band around a nail that I have holding up this garland, and then I just kind of tried to make it look a little bit drapey, and I used push pins for this, so nothing too intense. And I'm so pleased with how this looks. This is exactly the effect that I was going for with the first bow. You can see them next to each other here and the size difference. Insane. I'm so in love with this. Okay, for our next DIY, I was about this close to making new stockings this year, but then I was just looking at our stockings that we already have and I just really, really love them still. So instead of making new stockings, I'm going to just add a little monogram tag onto them and we're going to make it out of felt. This just makes it easier to know whose stocking is whose because as it is right now, they're all exactly the same knitted stocking. So I just took a look through my collection of letters and I realized that I don't really have, number 1, the letters that I need, and number 2, the right size of letters because I don't want these to be too big. Like I'm thinking it's probably gonna be like 4 inches by 5 inches, like something in that realm. I will have a template that you can download in the description of this video if you are wanting to do this, along with some letters. Actually, I'll just have like the full alphabet of the font that I'm using so that if you want to do this too, it'll just be really easy to print out. You won't have to find your own font, but I usually go for a more chunky font that has like round letters, and actually the font that is like my branding for my channel happens to be, well, for my main channel happens to be a really good option. So anyway, I'll have that down for you in the description. What I'm going to do is just show you one of them, and I'm going to do Nora's. So I'm going to trace this out with a Sharpie, and then when I go back to trace the second piece, I'm going to flip it That's just a little bit of a sewing hack so that you have two mirrored pieces so that when you put them together, the Sharpie is on the inside of the piece. You can also avoid the whole Sharpie situation if you just pin this and cut it out, but I much prefer using the Sharpie. Ooh, actually, I think I could use this. It's a little thinner than a Sharpie. What I'm going to do is use a contrasting thread, probably a white or a cream, depending on what I have a lot of, which it looks like it's gonna have to be white. So that alone is going to make a really big impact on this piece, but I would like to go the extra mile and do a little bit of embroidery here. And if I was thinking ahead, I would have just left it traced out on my felt and then put a little embroidery hoop on it so that it would be even easier. But because I'm not going to be doing too much, I don't think it's going to be too difficult to do it without an embroidery hoop. But just so you know, when you're doing this, you can totally do that. Now I'm thinking I want to do just like maybe a vine. I'm going to look on Pinterest to see if I can get some inspiration. So I'm really liking the vibe of these. So I have a water erasable pen. So I'm just going to draw like the shape of that through here. Oh, this isn't even showing up. She is not showing. Is this pen dead? No, it's not. It's just not really showing here. I'm sure you can barely see this, but I can see it at least enough. Yeah, now we just start our stitching. Okay, it's now dark and cozy lighting because life. I'm doing the last craft now, which is going to be some paper stars. Now my friend Brie put up a tutorial on how to make these on her Instagram, and I'm basically just going to be showing you, not even my version, I'm just going to be doing what she did. So if you want to see the original tutorial, I will link it down below. It's on the Instagram page, Agatha Gardens. And I had an idea to put a bunch of paper stars around the display where these photos are going to be, because I don't know, I just wanted something on that wall that feels very Christmas, and these seemed like a fun and easy way to do that. And also, I believe she said that she reuses them every year. So basically what we're going to do is, I have wrapping paper. This wrapping paper is kind of like a craft brown with white snowflakes, and then the other side is black with white snowflakes. So I'm probably going to be using mostly these, and I was maybe thinking about adding in some white ones with some just like printer paper that I have. But yeah, we're gonna get started. Basically what you do is you cut out paper that is double as long as it is wide. So just like with the bow, 10 inch by 20 inch, just make sure that you're doubling one side. It's very nice to have this cutting mat because it makes measuring out stuff like this really easy. Okay, now that we have our first piece, we're going to fold it in half, hot dog style once again. Going to open it back up, and then you just fold it accordion style all the way down. If you end up with a little bit of extra, you can just cut that off. Now on that center seam that we folded, where it was in half, we're going to grab some thread, or rope or whatever you have to secure this. So we're gonna tie it. And I happen to have embroidery thread and like a lot of it directly next to me. So I'm just going to use that. Now that everything is folded and tied off, we need to cut our designs. So for this one, I'm just gonna make it simple. I'm going to cut just like a diagonal right here. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And then from there, we just open it up and look. We have a beautiful paper star. That is so cute. Okay, so this one was like 13 inches by 26 inches. So a little bit smaller than I originally set out to do. So it's like definitely bigger than my head. So for scale wise, I am gonna make some that are bigger than this though, because I've got this whole roll. But like how cool. And because this wrapping paper is reversible, I can kind of just choose which side I want to be visible. So I love that. We do need to close it up though. So I'm gonna fire up the hot glue gun and you just put glue right here and right here. And then you connect those two pieces together and then it's like the glue never happened. There's a lot of different ways that you can cut this rectangle once it's in the accordion to make fun shapes. So I wanted to show this, what I did. So I cut the edges and then I cut a triangle and a triangle on either end of the middle section. And it makes a really, really cool shape. It kind of just looks like the center is open. I think it's really pretty and I'm excited to glue this one together so that I can see like truly what it's going to look like. But I just wanted to show that really quickly because there's so many different ways that you can cut these to look special and unique. And I think that it'd be really cool to also do like a double center cut, like maybe do another one like on the outskirts here, like for a bigger one. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this year's Christmas DIYs video. I love just being able to do a couple of holiday crafts with you every year. I hope that if you guys make any of these items, you will send me a photo on DMs on my Dela Creations page or on Dela Plants, whichever. I would just really, really love to see your own creations. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting me every year with these videos. And I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season. I will see you in the next one.